Hello and welcome to This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. I'm your producer and host, Christopher Holder. On this week's presentation, we bring you highlights of the opening ceremony of the inaugural Agriculture Forum and Expo, which was held May 19 to the 21 at the Atachang Convention Center. The opening ceremony, though, was held at the National Cultural Center, and I was there. And we certainly bring you highlights of the presentations made by the heads of government attending this inaugural event. It has been declared a major success, and of course there will be lots and lots of decisions coming out of this, and you will be hearing about those decisions in the days and weeks ahead. All the countries have expressed a commitment to realizing the Vision 25 by 2025, and of course all will be working hard to realize this vision of survival of the region in the face of global challenges and, the realities that come with it. This program is produced for television by the Communications Unit of the Ministry of Agriculture. We will be back after these messages. Here's an important notice. Do you know that it is illegal to import, store, distribute, sell, and purchase antibiotics without a license or prescription, as the case may be? According to the Antibiotic Act of 1952, owners of livestock and other animals are not permitted to purchase and use antibiotics unless prescribed by a veterinarian. It should be noted that the misuse of antibiotics could result in the development of resistance to the very antibiotic, which in turn will pose health risks to the animal and to humans. The GLDA advises that farmers should not administer antibiotics to animals unless prescribed by a veterinarian. Non-compliance with this act will result in fines and imprisonment. A message from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority, Ministry of Agriculture. Farmers and the members of the public in general are being advised that tampering with drainage and irrigation structures in any way is prohibited under the Drainage and Irrigation Act. So too are practices that result in damage to access dams, such as using an inadequate length of tube to irrigate farmlands, resulting in erosion of the earthen dams. Also contrary to the Drainage and Irrigation Act is the practice of erecting structures or planting on government reserves. This will not be condoned. These reserves are to be clear at all times to provide access for the excavation of the channels. Livestock farmers should also be aware that they are liable for any damages caused by their cattle or swine to dams or reserves alongside D&I channels, as is the case when the animals cross these channels. Individuals wishing to erect bridges across D&I structures should first contact the NDIA before doing so. Those found guilty under the Act are liable to fines and imprisonment for up to 3 months. A message from the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, Ministry of Agriculture. The much-anticipated Agriculture Forum and Expo has been described as a major success. The conference and Expo was held at the Atachang Convention Center May 19 to 21 and saw the attendance of more than 7 heads of state of the Caribbean region. The opening ceremony for this inaugural event was held at the National Cultural Center. On this week's edition of This Week in Agriculture, we bring you highlights of that opening ceremony. Leading off the presentations was President Dr. Irfan Ali, who spoke under the theme Vision 25 by 2025. The president told those gathered at the National Cultural Center that Guyana is ready to move collectively forward with the rest of the region in doing all that it takes to realize the vision of reducing the region's food imports by 25% by the year 2025.
That is, together we are ready to move forward in every aspect of the food production system in this region. From production, to trade relations, to issues of markets, of barriers, every single issue, transport and logistics, every single issue is on the table because we recognize if we cannot address these issues in a collective, multifaceted manner, then we will not be able to bring the long-term solutions that are so critically required. And that is why the private sector is the center of what we're doing. And the private sector here includes the farmers. But why are we here? By 2030, global use of cereal, wheat, corn, and soya is projected to increase to 3 million tons. Developing countries will account for almost 90% of this projected increase. Three-quarters of the increase is attributed to feed consumption, with expanding livestock and poultry sectors. We are already seeing the pressure on the poultry sector and livestock because of feed input costs, and this is not expected to get better. Maize prices increased by 20% in the first quarter of 2022, exceeding its July 2012 record prices. Wheat prices are forecasted to increase by more than 40% by 2022, while consumption is expected to increase by 12%. The challenge for developing countries and us in CARICOM is not only the rise in prices, but the supply. As the vaccination war taught us, our position in the line is definitely not in front. Global production of mutton is expected to grow by 15%, while consumption is expected to grow to 18 million tons by 2030. Production will just be keeping pace with consumption. The same can be said for dairy. The production growth by 2030 is projected at 1.7% per annum, while per capita consumption of dairy products is projected to increase by 1.2% per annum. As I speak to you this morning, there is a global shortage of baby formula all across territories. A global shortage of baby formula. Fertilizer has seen a 100% increase as of March 2022, while CARICOM has reported a 17.1% increase in transport expenses due to higher bunker prices and charter rates. Global fish production reached 179 million tons in 2018. Close to 50% of this production came from aquaculture. 50% of this came from aquaculture. The state of marine fisheries stock continues to decline, with a portion of fish stock being within biological sustainable levels, decreasing from 90% in 1974 to 65.8% in 2017. From 90% to 65.8%. The Caribbean region is located in the FAO fisheries area, termed the Western Central Atlantic. Only 61.4% of the assessed stock was fished within biologically sustainable levels in 2017. Catches peaked at 2.5 million metric tons in 1984 and declined to 1.2 million metric tons in 2014. This represents a 70% decline. If this trend continues by 2030, less than 50% of marine stocks in the Caribbean will be fished sustainably. Management measures can arrest this, but climate change may accelerate this further downwards. It can therefore be easily assumed that marine stocks will continue to decline in the region, and any increase in the fisheries supply will come from either imports or aquaculture production and expansion. The choice is ours.
The Guyanese leader spoke of the collaborations and the proposed removals of trade barriers to the advancement of intra-regional trade and outlined Guyana's plans to expand its agricultural pursuits across the board. Earlier, CARICOM's Secretary General, Dr. Carla Barnett, described the event as an important step on the path to achieving the clear objective set by heads of government of investing in Vision 25 by 2025, all with the aim of promoting and improving the productivity and resilience of the region's agri-food systems.
For the Caribbean community, investing in Vision 25 by 2025 for greater food and nutrition security is not just a concept, but an urgent necessity. It is a statement of commitment by the heads of government, which demonstrates that the time for action is now, The path to the transformation of our regional food systems is in our hands. We undertake this task at a time of great global uncertainty. Not only has the COVID-19 pandemic exacted a significant toll on our economies, but we are now facing increased prices for food, fuel, and other basic goods due to the war in Ukraine and long-lasting supply chain disruptions. This adds to the stresses on the livelihoods of vulnerable people in our populations, increases the cost of doing business, and places additional pressures on governments' budgets. With the ongoing removal of the restrictions that came with the pandemic, our economies are now poised to recover some of the ground lost during these trying times. This is a stressful time that is testing our resilience significantly. However, I believe that the spirit of cooperation, which we have always shown in times of adversity, will be the bedrock on which we overcome the current challenges.
In his remarks, the Prime Minister of Belize and Chairman of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, the Honorable John Antonio Brasino, expressed his country's confidence in the Vision 25 by 2025 and pointed to the timeliness of the initiative for the region.
For sure, it is an opportune time for us to be discussing agriculture and, to a greater extent, food security. Why? Because the Caribbean community continues to be affected by a number of global events, which can and indeed have a negative effect on our region's ability to ensure food security for our people. Some of these immediate effects include the COVID-19 pandemic, challenges resulting from the disruptions in the global supply chain, the high and increasing costs of agro inputs, most recent, the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia, and yes, climate change. Each of these alone would have been enough to seriously disrupt our fragile economies, let alone all of them taken together. But we need not despair. Instead, we must appreciate the fact that we have our dedicated CARICOM farmers and agro-processors who are knowledgeable enough and skilled enough to take advantage of the many opportunities that currently exist in our region to attain food security and enhance economic activity. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time that CARICOM is organizing an Agri-Business Investment Forum and Expo, and across the region we welcome this initiative. Investing in Vision 25 by 2025 is the theme chosen for this event. It is more than a catchy slogan. It is, in effect, a plan which intends to see our region reduce its dependency on food imports and products by 25% over the next 3.5 years. To do this, we, the member states that make up CARICOM, will have to work with our agro-producers to foster accelerated and targeted investment in food production. During our last CARICOM heads of government meeting, we acknowledged that our agri-food sector accounts for more than 20% employment in the region. Like Belize, Guyana is blessed with abundant agricultural land and are people able and capable of tilling the fertile soil. This is why we are so excited about the leadership role President Ali is playing as a lead for agriculture and food security. Congratulations, President Ali. Wonderful job.
Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister, the Honorable Gaston Brown, spoke on sustainable agriculture and risk mitigation. He stressed that as part of the global marketplace, the region remains vulnerable to global shocks and must put systems in place to mitigate against those shocks.
The consequential effects of COVID and the war in Ukraine have demonstrated in stark terms the interconnectivity of our globalized world. None of our countries has escaped the impact of increased petroleum prices, the shortage of fertilizer, and the higher prices of food products occasioned by constraints on supply. I draw attention to the worrying observation by the World Bank that the price of fertilizers has increased by as much as 178% between March 2021 and March 2022. The price of urea, one of the most important and widely used fertilizers, has now reached an all-time high. Shortages of food products around the world have resulted in the highest rate of inflation for over 4 decades. Colleagues, the high prices are affecting the poor and the most vulnerable in our societies, and we must act urgently to protect them. In short, the world is facing a crisis in food production and supply that has exponentially increased the cost of food to every nation, including ours in the Caribbean community, with implications to political stability and national security. This situation exposes our vulnerabilities more profoundly, especially the food insecurity of our region. The rapid escalation in the price of fertilizer should be a strong signal to us as a region of the importance of our countries acting together to invest in machinery to produce fertilizer. And I would have listened carefully to the distinguished President of Ghana about establishing your own facility to produce fertilizer. But I believe that this is an area for regional collaboration. The present situation may be an opportunity for Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago to explore the possibility of utilizing their gas capacity to strengthen and expand Trinidad's existing facility so as to produce fertilizer to satisfy the region's needs and to end our vulnerability to external vagaries. I hope this idea might be pursued, including by the two governments, while inviting all Caribbean governments to invest in the enterprise as owners, making it a truly regional undertaking.
In her presentation, Barbados's Prime Minister, the Honorable Mia Mottley, said the region faces a crisis like never before, and so as a region, we may very well have to realize as much as 50% reduction in our food import needs if we are to survive the looming threats to food security in the region.
Those supply chain disruptions didn't start this year. They started during the course of the pandemic. They have simply become exacerbated in the last 2 to 3 months. We are already familiar with them because we had the export restrictions on us with PPE and ventilators at the beginning, and we understood then in a very real way, as you heard from President Ali this morning, that we are simply not large enough to be seen and not loud enough to be dealt with, neither individually or regrettably collectively. My friends, we are at that moment in time where it is up to us to stand up to the challenge or to recognize that the consequences of it will indeed be difficult and potentially devastating for our people. And while we await the global initiatives to be announced by the UN Secretary General and the Global Crisis Response Team that he has established on food, energy and financing, with the expectation that what the world faces will be more challenging than what we faced in 2008 to 2010, we have a responsibility to take preemptive action in this region to protect our people. And that is why all of us meet in Georgetown today against this backdrop. A crisis like no other is before us. And may I say that when we first set the target, indeed, I remember like yesterday, when the regional ministers of agriculture met in Barbados in September 2018, and we issued the challenge, I issued them and said, why are we not resuscitating the Jack Day initiative? And in so doing, why can't we set ourselves a simple target of reducing food imports regionally by 25% by 2025? Little did we know how apt that challenge would be for this moment in time. Little did we realize that rather than just being 25, President Ali, it might well have to be 50 by 2025, given what we have just said.
The Honorable Roosevelt Scarrett of Dominica spoke on the importance of transport and market integration, pointing out that the capacity is there within the region to feed ourselves. He questioned why it is easier to send produce to Europe than to send the same produce right here in the region.
And some of my colleagues would have alluded to some of the challenges that we face. The reality is, I can understand why is it that I'm able to export avocados to Europe and North America, but I cannot export it to some Caribbean countries. And I can understand how we can export ginger, which is such a high demand to help fight COVID-19, but we cannot supply the region. But we can send it out to Europe and out to North America. So the reality is, the actions and the decisions to help transform agriculture and meet farmers, that comfort and that confidence that they so need is within our hands. And I think we need to, as part of the process of advancing this very lofty and welcome initiative led by the President of Guyana, of which I am in total and absolute support of, I think we need to itemize the actions we need to take and take them. And take them. Because if we're to allow CARICOM or people to, or ordinary folks to feel that they are part of an integration process, especially our farmers and fisher folk, they must be able to benefit from that process. And the reality is, in my country, we can supply the region with a wide variety of crops at affordable prices, and to safeguard the health of the region. And it's all this extra regional imports of agricultural produce with also chemicals in it. That's what causes a lot of health problems we have in the region today. CNCs, diabetes and hypertension. We're scared of COVID-19. We should be really scared of the Caribbean of diabetes and hypertension. And then we have a high incidence of obesity in the region, caused by what we eat. So this initiative is not only about economics, it's also about the well-being, the welfare of every citizen in the Caribbean region.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, the Honorable Keith Rowley, posited that the region as a whole has long known what has to be done to ensure our collective survival and realization of food security.
We know what to do. Question is, are we prepared to do it? I'm here on this occasion for two reasons, among going to culture. First reason I'm here is to see whether it is possible to revitalize the hope and the energy that was held out to us by the Jamil documents, and to also to provide total support for the initiative and the enthusiasm of President Okanali in trying to get us to do what we know we have to do. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm also here to remind you that there was something called the St. Anne's Initiative. And that was a meeting in St. Anne's in Trinidad, CARICOM meeting, very much like this in Trinidad, sponsored by, supported by CARICOM, sponsored by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, for one reason. That reason was to refocus the people of the region to the valuable, or I should say invaluable role that the single market and economy should and have to play if we are to be successful in our initiatives. Today I want to say, unless we accept CARICOM as a proper single market and economy, a lot of these objectives will not be realized. We cannot, as a small economy, fighting against the winds that are buffeting us, as they did so poignantly during COVID-19 worst days, to still be operating on the basis you versus me and mine versus yours. On the other hand, if the St. Anne's initiative, which came into being because at the time when I joined the CARICOM heads of government, the unthinkable was happening. We had taken the single market and economy off the agenda list of CARICOM. At the initiative of Trinidad and Tobago, it was put back on the agenda. And that St. Anne's meeting was to drive us along the line to actually get something done. Agree to do it. That initiative is in place. It's on paper. It's among the leaders. We're meeting here today, not after, but during a pandemic, because only this morning I was monitoring the response from countries and looking at the data of the continued infection at high levels of people responding to the virus. Thank God, the hospitalization is not rising, but the infection levels are rising again. One of the things that I think we've all agreed on, and the experts have told us that, is that what we have experienced in COVID-19 is likely to happen again and to happen more frequently. And for those of us who, in the worst days of COVID-19, heard our private sector saying to us as government that they could not place an order for a supply of food, and our Ministry of Health could not administer a vaccine even though we had the money to buy it because we could not buy a vaccine. We have been warned.
Guyana's Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, in his closing remarks, said that he was heartened by the various utterances of the heads of states and that it signaled the commitment of a region towards the realization of the Vision 25 by 2025. The exposition, which started Friday, saw Guyana's farmers and agro-processors on display alongside a wide range of stakeholder entities. Various agencies of the Ministry of Agriculture were also part of the exhibition, sharing with visitors the services available to members of the public in advancing agriculture development in Guyana. Delegates to the Agri Forum were also taken on visits to the President's Youth Initiative, the Shade House Project at Monrepo, and also to Lethem in Region 9 for a meeting with Brazilian investors. Well, that's all the time we have on this week's edition of This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. I'm your producer and host, Christopher Holder. Until next time then, be good to yourselves and to each other.